Please, Drew. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Bishop. My name is Drew Dyson, clergy, Greater New Jersey Annual Conference, white adult male. On behalf of the Financial Administration Legislative Committee, I'm here to move calendar item 542, GCFA report number 8, petition number 21124. The report can be found on DCA page 1893. And as amended, the committee voted to approve by a vote of 42 for, 21 against. The amendment would be in section 1B to amend the base percentage to 2.9% for 2025, 26, 27, and 28. I grew up as the youngest of 4 boys, being raised by a single mother with limited financial resources. There were days when our only meal came from the leftovers from the kitchen of the United Methodist Nursing Home where my mom worked as a social worker and administrator. Yet my mom supported the church with her tithe and second mile giving, teaching us that even in the midst of financial challenges, we give to God's work in the world in response to God's goodness and love. As the Financial Administration Legislative Committee considered Report 8 proposed by GCFA, we wanted to begin by considering the impact of the proposed 22% cut to the base rate and the corresponding proposed budget that had on our ministries as a denomination. We applauded the work of our general agencies over the past 4 years to adjust to the financial realities stemming from the COVID pandemic, church disaffiliations, and so much more. They downsized their agencies, cut staff, and addressed overlap and redundancy. They've done hard and difficult work. With a proposed base rate from GCFA of 2.595% for the coming quadrennium, we wanted to hear what the second level impact was of these cuts. What is the impact that these cuts would have not only on the agencies, but on the ministries of our denomination? So as a committee, here is some of what we heard. There will be 184 fewer student scholarships available for Africa University. There will be significant reduction in the number of missionaries trained and deployed throughout the world. A reduction in the activities of our global health boards in Africa, along with cuts in the Yambasu Agricultural Initiative. There will be reduced support for Methodist schools, colleges, and universities, especially our HBCUs. Reduction in campus ministry supporting the spiritual development of young people, impact on the ability to provide multilingual communications and multilingual resources across our increasingly diverse denomination, fewer internships and fellowships for young people exploring their call to ministry and their work of justice and peace in and beyond the church. At the same time, we have great concern for the ministry of the local church and the good work done in and through our local churches and annual conferences. The Legislative Committee's recommended base rate of 2.9% seeks to find a balance between our commitment to supporting local ministry and the need to continue our commitment to God's work in the world through our global church. As you review the formula, it's important to know that the net expenditures being projected by GCFA are 26+% lower than the previous quadrennium. That net expenditure decrease attends to the financial realities of disaffiliation and pandemic impact. The committee recommended base rate of 2.9% represents a 12% cut from the current base rate of 3.29% in the current quadrennium. It is not an increase over our current apportionment formula, despite the information that's been circulated. Yes, it's not as extreme as the 21% cut from the current base rate that's being recommended, but we believe it's a reasonable adjustment that balances our values of putting more money into the local church and continuing to support the powerful ministry enabled by our denomination. To put it into context, a local church with an expense budget of $250,000 a year would receive an approximate $1,000 cut in their general church apportionment rather than a $1,750 cut under the 2.595% initially proposed by GCFA. By setting the base rate at 2.9%, we would also be restoring $40.6 million to the proposed quadrennial budget of $352 million. Also, still a significant cut. The message that we want to send to the local church and to the world following the 2024 General Conference of the United Methodist Church is about who we are now and into the future. What do we want to communicate about our values and our commitments as a church? On the other side of disaffiliation, who do we want to be? So the committee endorsed a base rate of 2.9% that we believe says we want to continue our investment in our HBCUs, creating educational opportunities for Black students at a time when the Supreme Court has outlawed affirmative action. We want to strengthen our support for Africa University and continue our commitment to being truly global as a denomination, to strengthen our witness on campuses, supporting college students at a time when their yearning for justice is being threatened, to invest in global health, ecological justice, and multilingual programming and resources to support our growing diversity. We want to support Episcopal leadership needed to guide our denomination into the future that God is leading us. The Financial Administration Legislative Committee recommends your support for the majority report, setting our apportionment base percentage at 2.9%.
Thank you, Drew. As noted, there is a minority report, and I call on Don House to present that.
Good afternoon. My name is Don House. I'm from Texas, lay, white, and I'm an adult. Our issue between the majority and the minority report is the base percentage. The minority report is a percentage of 2.59%. The majority report, as you've heard, is at 2.9%. The overview is that we're talking about the apportionments that are collected by the General Conference through GCF&A from the jurisdictional annual conferences that then forward those requests on to the local churches. The formula in report number 8 is the amount of apportionment is equal to net expenditures times the base percent. The net expenditures have deductions for the payment of apportionments and the payments for other benevolences among the local churches. I'm an economist, so I have a particular way of thinking, and bear with me. This is how, from an economist standpoint, how our connection works. The local church is the engine, and it makes disciples, and it provides for our connectional funding. The fuel is the collection plate and God's guidance. The local church makes investments in making its disciples and creating the funds for the connection. Those investments are in staff, programs, and facilities. Our overall goal is to have sufficient health among the churches that then would provide the adequate funding for the agencies. We use an indicator, kind of an engine indicator, to see how healthy the churches are. And that is, how do they respond to these general church apportionments? A sign of a healthy church among the jurisdictional conferences is a pretty high collection rate on those apportionments, 90% or above. And that generates healthy churches, and that generates sufficient funding. How well are we doing? The collection rate in 2016 was 91.8%. Healthy. In 2022, it was 73.7%. And estimated in 2024, 68.5%. That is not a healthy engine. GCFA's responses historically have been these: give the local churches relief. In 2016, in 2004, the apportionment or base percentage was 4.137%, meaning that the general church was asking for 4.137% of the net expenditures from the collection plate. In 2025 to 2028, GCFA estimated that it should be reduced, and it had been reducing all the way through that period, to 2.595%, and that is what is contained in the minority report. Now, when we look out from 2025 to 2028, GCFA is looking at the health of the local churches as well as the funding for the agencies. What we have before us is the latest collection rate estimated at 68.5%, not over 90%. We also have not taken into account accurately, because we haven't done the work yet, the impact of disaffiliation. That is still an unknown. GCFA has spent countless hours doing the projections of net expenditures into the future, even in the presence of disaffiliation. The full effects are not yet fully known. And the health of the local church. What percent of the collection plate and its spending should be asked for funding the general agencies? So the recommendation was 2.595%. The expectation is healthier churches and an improvement in the collection rate, which helps the overall connectional system. If we go to the 2.9%, which is above what is contained in the minority report, based upon the research that I've done, we will have even a lower payout rate below the 68.5%, and fewer investments from the local church into staff, programs, and facilities. We want a healthier body of local churches with which we can fund the agencies. The evidence indicates that they have suffered. GCFA is recommending, and the minority report is recommending some relief. Please select the minority report. Thank you.
Thank you. Don, I have a question before you leave the stage. In your report, you kept referring to the 2.59%. According to the printed text, the recommendation is 2.6%.
That's a rounding error. It's 2.595. If you look at the section 8, it goes out about 6 decimals.
So it goes up. So it's really not a change. You're using the 2.5, the really long, the
I'm
long
giving
number.
you some more decimals.
Thank you, I think. So friends, by our rules 28 and 29, minority reports are treated as substitute motions. I'm seeing the checkered flag, so if those of you who work in tech want to attend to the checkered flags, I would appreciate it. Yeah, and the pool is not yet open, and I'd ask if we could clear all the names out of the current pool. Simply want to explain the process by which we handle minority reports. We treat them as substitute motions and use our rules for managing substitute motions, which means when there is a substitute, the question before the body is, are you wanting to substitute the minority report for the motion made by the committee? That is the only question before us, the only question for discussion and debate. Which motion do you want to work with? And after you make that decision, then we will debate which motion you have made the main motion. Is it clear enough to move forward? So the question before the body is, do you want to start with the committee report, which is a base rate of 2.9%, or do you want to work on the minority report, which is the base rate of 2.59, da 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 da? Let's just talk about it as 2.6 for our conversation. We're opening the pool for you to speak for or against substituting the minority report for the committee report. The pool is open. I'd like to recognize John Copeland, microphone 2, a speech 4.
Bon dia. My name is John Copeland, a member of the Missouri Annual Conference. I'm a lay delegate, adult, male. I am biracial Chinese. I rise to speak in favor of the minority report. My home church, Lafayette Park, UMC, is small, but it's mighty. It is a refuge for God's children, especially those on the margins. 3 out of 4 local churches in my annual conference are small churches just like mine. The reduction in the base percentage rate is welcome relief. Every day, small churches like mine must make difficult decisions on how to use a limited amount of money. Do we fix the boiler? Do we fix the truck for our furniture ministry? There is no shortage of things to fix at my small local church. And so I was disappointed to hear that this amendment cuts that relief nearly in half. By my estimates, this amendment would reduce our relief by about $1,000. Let me tell you something. $1,000 goes a long way at a small church. With $1,000, we could buy gas for a year for our furniture ministry. We could replace windows and reduce our carbon footprint. We could increase our support for the Mozambique Initiative. Yeah, clap for that. Or we could simply add to our reserve funds. This amendment takes half of that relief and sends it to, well, where does it send it? The amendment does not say. I want to know because I've got a long list of things it could go to instead if those funds stayed at my local church and in my annual conference.
8 seconds.
Therefore, I am not satisfied with this amendment and urge you to support the minority report.
Thank you. There is someone in here who has asked to speak to amend. This motion is not amenable to amendments. I'm going to call on Emily Allen, microphone 5, a speech against.
Thank you, Bishop. Emily Allen, California, Nevada, laywoman. I am speaking against the minority report. I recognize that with the delay of General Conference, numbers that GCFA published in 2019 as the anticipated budget for the 2020 quadrennium, as decreases in the expected ask, the expected base rate, some churches, some annual conferences started living into those numbers immediately rather than continuing to give apportionments at the officially approved 2016 rates. I do not believe that the percentage received that was reported by the minority report speaker is indicative of the health of our local churches and their willingness and enthusiasm to support the work of the general church. I believe that this story Bishop Bickerton shared of the Texas Annual Conference and the enthusiasm for the work of this denomination and for remaining in this denomination is more indicative of the way our church will be going forward and our ability to live into that future with a mindset of open generosity and funding the work of our entire connection, and not a mindset of scarcity and thinking that we must keep all of our own resources to ourselves. Therefore, I am speaking against the minority report and urge you to vote it down. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to call on Tolbert Nienswa, microphone 1, a speech 4 substitution. Not seeing anybody move toward microphone 1. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Microphone 1, please.
Thank you, Bishop. My name is Tolbert Nienswa from the West African Central Conference lay leader. I am in support of the committee's report and the committee's petition. The reason is that having served as co-chair on several committees, I see a very rigorous the work of the committee, so their recommendations should be pivotal. Thank you, Bishop.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Denise Smart, microphone 3, for a speech against substitution.
Bishop, I'm Denise Smart Sears, African American woman, clergy, New York Conference, USA. I speak against the minority report. I learned to tithe from my parents, and I don't know where I would be if it were not for the United Methodist Church. I graduated from Dillard University, one of the 11 Black colleges related to the United Methodist Church, because I'm a Northerner. And so we knew very little about the schools in the South that our church was offering. But it was a family in my father's first church that they kind of took me in, and they told us about this school where she and her daughters had attended. And to God be the glory, I went to that Christian school. I was nurtured and educated to be the woman that I am today. And so even when I served our church as a Lina H. McCord ambassador, I had the opportunity to travel throughout our connection and Puerto Rico at the time and tell them the importance of the Black College Fund. Today, I stand as a proud parent of a son who attends Clark Atlanta University. Why did he choose that school? Because that's where his aunt and uncle went, and he saw what it did for them and praised that it will help transform him into a young man, Christian young man, who gives back to his community.
Thank you. I'd like to call on Amy King, microphone 5, speech 4 substitution. And then I'm going to call on Jen Peters, Michigan, microphone 5, for a speech against. At that point, we will have had 3 speeches for and 3 against, and by our rules, we will move to a vote.
Hi, Bishop. Can I use microphone 6 instead?
You certainly may.
Thank you. Amy King, North Georgia, laity, white, female. I do not belong on any committees. I am not speaking on behalf of anyone's interests other than the local church. Every Sunday, it's a kind of a guess if we're going to have a working HVAC. But since 2016, the general church's net assets have increased from $136 million to $509 million. That's their unrestricted net assets. So that means the assets less the money they owe someone has increased by 227%, while we decide if we're gonna have heat or air every week. Increasing the base rate will increase the cost for the local church. We have to understand that the mission and the ministry of the United Methodist Church happens at the local level. Increasing our apportionments takes away pay from pastors. We already have pastors who weren't paid enough, are Black, Indigenous, people of color pastors are grossly underpaid in the Methodist Church, and increasing the apportionments to the general church takes money out of churches to pay their clergy, to pay their staff, to do ministry. So I suggest, and it is my hope, that we will accept the substitution and go with the minority report. Thank you.
Thank you. Jen Peters, Michigan, microphone 5.
Bishop, I'm also going to use microphone 6, if that's okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Jen Peters, laity from Michigan, white, adult, female. I would like to speak against the minority report. I appreciate the work of GCFA. The American church is a shrinking church, but as we have heard from many of our siblings, the worldwide church is growing. Praise be to God and to the good work of the United Methodist Church. The reality is that in the wake of denominational decline, disaffiliation, and COVID, we have seen reduced budgets, and we need to continue to shrink our budget. In Michigan, we have already made drastic and painful cuts to our conference budget and staff, and we continue to adjust to the reality of the economics of this world. But we do not need to cut so far, so fast. The committee's proposed base percentage of 2.9 that came out of committee is still a cut from our current base rate of 3.29, but is not the deep cut that GCFA originally proposed. It is a compromise. It will cushion the fall that we all anticipate. Most annual conferences have already drafted their budgets based on a lower number. While they have a draft, no conferences have passed a budget yet. If you support the rate of 2.9, they will have to go back and rework those budgets. I know I am asking them to do hard work. I have talked with some leadership in my own Michigan annual conference, and it would increase our ask to the churches. I know that is a difficult ask. I'm asking all of us right now to sell the importance of the connection and the importance of these apportioned dollars. It would add an approximate $40.6 million to our connectional ministry. We need to create a culture of commitment to the connection.
Thank you. In accordance with Rule 7.3, after 3 speeches for and 3 against, with no secondary motions pending, we move directly to a vote. Before we vote, the presenter of the minority report gets a brief summary statement followed by a presenter of the majority report.
The connection is extremely important. In our conference, as an example, we have developed the notion of a covenant between the local church and the annual conference, a covenant to pay 100% of our apportionments. We have churches that are pushing through their reserves to continue that covenant. When we have relatively high payout rates in the annual conference, that covenant gets stronger and growing across the churches. With a payout rate of 68.5%, it's difficult to continue that covenant. And when churches break loose and start paying less than asked, it can become the standard. I think it's in our best interest to improve the payout rate from 68.5% by asking for less.
Thank you. Drew?
I'm grateful for my mother's words and for her teaching. I'm grateful for the gift of helping me understand that we give in response to God's grace, not in response to our situation. And so I urge on behalf of the Financial Administration Legislative Committee that this 2.9% base rate is a balance between the proposed cut of 2.6 and the current rate of 3.29, still reflecting a cut in the overall base rate and in our overall budget. As a committee, we believed that this cut is fair and balanced and continues to balance the important work that happens in our local churches and the work that happens through our global connection. We urge that you vote against the minority report. Thank you.
Thank you. We will soon proceed to a vote. The motion requires a majority vote. The question is on the adoption of the motion to substitute the minority report for the original committee report as printed. The question is this: shall the minority report be substituted for the original Financial Administration Committee report? Please vote now. Has everyone who wishes to vote had an opportunity to vote? I'm seeing no checkered flags. Oh, there's a checkered flag over here. Wait just a few more seconds here. Here's everyone's had an opportunity to vote. The voting is closed. See the results. With 455 votes in the affirmative, 266 in the negative, you have approved the motion to substitute. The minority report is now before us as the main motion. We are still on calendar item 542, but the minority report. That is before us for further discussion or other action as the body may wish. If you'd like to speak for or against or engage in any other kind of conversation, the pool is open. I'd like to call on Scott Brewer as an other parliamentary inquiry or action.
Bishops, I move to refer calendar item 542 to GCFA for its further review and recommendations. GCFA shall report its recommendations by Friday, May 3rd, 2025. Furthermore, the Council is directed in its recommendations to reflect both the actions taken so far on report number 8, as well as all other petitions with financial implications that have or may still be approved by this General Conference. And if there's a second, I'll be happy to
Is there a second?
Bishop, the purpose of this referral is twofold. First, to ensure that the will of the body is reflected in the final budget that we adopt on Friday, or at least that I hope we adopt on Friday. Secondly, the budget is a very complicated work. We need to provide those that are charged with bringing a fully scrutinized and perfected budget sufficient time and authority to do so. I believe that this referral does both. Whether you agreed with the majority or the minority report, I think we have had an important and helpful debate. Nevertheless, the highly technical nature of the business that's still before us is best left to those who need to work out the details and make sure that the numbers balance. I don't think that this body at this time is in a position to do that.
The motion before us is to refer calendar item 542 back to the General Council on Finance and Administration for a report back to the body on Friday. Please clear the speaker pool. If anyone would like to speak for or against the motion to refer, please enter the pool now. So I'm going to call on Sarah Schleichert, Baltimore, Washington, microphone 6, point of inquiry.
Thank you, Sarah Schlickert, clergy, Baltimore, Washington Conference, female, white, adult. Do our rules, which were stated earlier that we need to deal with items with financial implications, allow for us to refer this piece?
Obviously, we're conferring up here. Just to thank you for your patience. So here's the discussion. GCFA needs some kind of starting point by which to consider all of the other financial legislation that may get passed by this body. This bit of legislation provides the starting point for them to do their work. And without us leaving calendar item 542 with some decision about the base rate, it's unlikely that they will be able to process the other bits of legislation that have financial implications. That's what I'm hearing. Is Moses Kumar in the house? Or, Mike, Mike McKee, Bishop McKee, would you address this as president of GCFA?
Remind me what you asked, Bishop Bard. I want to be clear.
Both of us are at the same place on this.
I don't think we are. That's why I want to be,
okay,
need to be
so
very
we're not.
clear.
Well, I think we both want to be clear. So what I'm hearing is that we need to pass something related to calendar item 542, a base rate with which GCFA can work. So referring this would not be in order.
One of the things that I think I heard the person who spoke last about something, it was about it would report in 2025, not this Friday. Different people are hearing different things from that. So I think we all ask the maker of the motion.
Yes. Like Scott Brewer to come back to microphone 4,
Bishop,
and then we'll call on Moses Kumar at
I'm here, Bishop.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, General Secretary Kumar. Microphone 4, Scott Brewer.
Bishop, I apologize for my Midwestern drawl. I did intend for it to be 2024. That is this Friday. And if I may just make one other point, I believe that if we were to take action now, we would have to also then take action to reconsider our action now in order to bring report number 8 back on Friday.
Okay.
So is the motion to refer? I know you don't make motions, but I'll call on General Secretary Kumar, microphone 5.
Bishop, good afternoon. I believe the referral is in order, and we will consider this minority report that's just been approved. we will take that as the base for our calculation of other reports, Bishop.
So the motion to refer would be in order?
Yes, Bishop.
Okay. Yes, I know it has to be approved. We've not yet voted on it. I just wanted to make sure we want to take the time to consider it and vote on it and not do all that work and then find out it's not in order. Thank you, General Secretary Kumar. So the motion before us is to refer calendar item 542 back to GCFA for a report back to this body on Friday of this year. You know, we've had a lot of kind of weird time things happening in the last 4 years. So I'd like to call on Bonnie Martin, microphone 1, for a point of order.
Bonnie Martin, lay person from the New England Annual Conference and by DNA maternally connected to the West African diaspora. I have a point of order, and I may be wrong, but I'm looking at Rule 28 in the first ADCA, line number 951, 52, and 53. And we just, the substitute motion is not supposed to negate the main motion, but it actually was a return to the original petition. And I just wanted the body to be aware to check in with you that that was an okay substitution, because we didn't.
Thank you. So Rule 29 takes precedence as a minority report. We process a minority report as a substitute motion, but I do believe it was in order. So we began with Rule 29, which then refers us back to Rule 28 for the process.
And I think the process was accurate. I'm just questioning whether returning to the original petition is not actually
I believe that
a
is an
negation.
appropriate. If it was offered as a substitute motion from the floor, I don't believe it would have been in order. But being a minority report from the committee, I do believe it was in order. Thank you for your question. So the motion before us, the question before us is referral, whether you'd want to refer calendar item 542 back to GCFNA. I'd like to call on Dave Knuckles, microphone 1, for a speech against. Then I will call on Linda King, microphone 5, for a speech for. Microphone 1, please.
Thank you, Bishop. I'm Dave Knuckles, lay adult from the Minnesota Annual Conference, and I would like to speak against the referral, and I have 2 reasons I'd like to offer. One, I was already in the queue right after we voted to make the minority report the main motion. I was in the queue to amend, and I know that referral takes precedence, so you in no way erred, Bishop. But my point is, I have an amendment that if I have a chance to introduce it in due course, I think could make the base rate plan considerably more amenable to the body at large. So I would love to get a chance to do that. The second reason, Bishop, is when the main motion became, when the minority report was voted as the main motion, it's properly debatable and requiring 2 speeches for or against. And the motion to referral negated our rules about speeches for and against.
No, motion to refer is not a closing of debate. It is appropriate any time in that. So it is not, we're not out of our rules in that. You're right, referral does not give us opportunity to consider that, but it is not out of order.
Well, I'm not going to argue about parliamentary procedure with an expert, so I take that back. But for the body, as we consider whether to refer or not, we have not had speeches about the minority report as a main motion.
You're correct.
And I have, I think, a very constructive amendment that I would love to do if
you.
it becomes in order.
Thank you. Microphone 5.
Bishop, I tried to opt out of the queue after listening to people speak. I'm going to have to rethink. So can you opt me out?
Sure.
Thank you.
Let's see, we've had one speech against referral, speaker for referral. Like to call on just kind of, we're trying to get some folks who maybe haven't had a chance to speak. We're finding that a lot of you are shy. So I'd like to call on Kalabi Chali, microphone 4, a speech for referral. And then next I'll call on Matthew Lafferty for a speech against referral.
Bishop.
Yes.
Microphone 4.
Microphone 4. My apologies. Thank you. Please proceed.
Kalabachali. I'm a male, black, Zambian, Congolese American from the Great Plains Conference, and I'm a clergy. I support the referral. Also believe that the conversation we've had that led to supporting the minority report is very important. I believe that wisdom will guide the committee in their work, or the board in their work. I am in my first year as a district superintendent. It has been so painful to see the struggle of local churches that have lost a lot of members and the shrinking financial resources. I have also been inspired, especially for some of our black churches in Wichita, Kansas, pastors exploring creative ideas to raise funds. I believe all of us can learn to do that. The local church is the basis of all we do as with regard to our mission to make disciples of Jesus Christ. I have had a painful experience of leading. Just the Sunday before I came here on Monday, I led a special church conference to cut a salary of a pastor by $12,000. I wish that was a unique case, but I've done this 6 times already before I finish my first year as a district superintendent. So the referral is in order, and I plead with you, we do not need to crush our local churches. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Lafferty, microphone.
Bishop.
Microphone 5, yes.
I think the Holy Spirit got a hold of my device. I didn't mean to get in the queue.
Oh, and we need a copy of the written motion from Scott Brewer, please. So I'm going to go to Lydia Munoz, microphone 5, who is in the pool for an amendment. The motion to refer is amendable, but pretty limited on how you can amend it. So I want to check and see if that's what you want to do. Try to amend the motion to refer. Microphone 5.
Lydia Munoz, Eastern Pennsylvania Conference, Latina clergy woman. I'm not sure of that rule, and that I would like for it to be amended so that the referral has with it some negotiation between the 2.9 and the 2.6, if GCFNA would consider that. Is that in order?
I think you've made a statement. They've been here and have heard the debate. So I think that's getting. In referring this, we've asked them to take into account the conversation. So I think they've heard that. So I would think that particular amendment is not appropriate. I'm going to turn to some points of information. We've to date, to this moment, have 2 speeches for referral, 1 against. Ken O or Au, Baltimore, Washington. Thank you. Point of inquiry.
Thank you. Ken Au, Baltimore, Washington, laity.
Thank you, Ken.
I am Chinese, Golden Senior. And I really, as being one of the original signers of the Minority Report, I do want to point out that the report number 8 from GCFA is 2.59542127777. And the Minority Report had to be a different number. So the number on the Minority Report is 2.60. It's not a rounding change. It is really an increase over the number proposed in report number 8. And it amounts to about $1 million increase.
Okay, thank you. So the Minority Report that is the motion before us is 2.6%. Thank you. Point of inquiry, Katie Dawson, microphone 5.
Katie Dawson, I am a white clergy female from Iowa. I have a question. Earlier today on the consent calendar, we had GCFA reports 1 through 7, and we took them off the consent calendar because they are items that we will address on Friday. So my question is, would this report number 8 have been one of those items that we would not have voted on until Friday? And does the motion to refer care for that?
Report 8 does come back to us on Friday. Whether this is redundant, we've done stranger things. I'm going to turn to Jay Brim, microphone 1, for a point of inquiry. Then I'm going to turn to Andy Call, microphone 5, for a speech against.
Bishop, I'm Jay Brim, a lay delegate from Rio, Texas, older white male. My concern is whether we're sending a number to GCFA that has not yet been adopted and must be adopted when it comes back to us on Friday after GCFA has relied on it, and what position the body would be in if it then fails.
GCFA has some guidance in the report. I mean, we are referring a number to them. I believe we heard from the General Secretary that that is the number they will be working with, and the body will have to make a final decision on Friday. We cannot leave here without passing a budget. It does present an interesting puzzle, but that's where we're at. Andy Call, microphone 5, speech against.
Thank you, Bishop. Andy Call, clergy, East Ohio, adult, white, cisgender male. There's no truth to the rumor that I only came to the microphone because today is also my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I am against the referral for 2 reasons. One, I do want to hear what Dave Knuckles has to say because I trust Dave, and I think there's some wisdom in hearing another voice on this. I'm also, in general, against the referral back to GCFNA. I believe that, as I understood it, essentially the Minority Report was to go back to what GCFNA had already suggested. Referring it back to them, even though it has some stipulations to what we've asked them to report back on Friday, is substantively to put it back in the hands of the people who crafted it in the first place. And I believe we have a responsibility as the body of the General Conference to deal with this, not simply to kick it back to where it came from. Thank you.
Thank you. We've had 2 speeches for, 2 speeches against. I'm going to call on Jonathan Page, microphone 1. Microphone 2 works well as well also.
Great. Jonathan Page, clergy, Virginia, white, male, shiny head. I'd like to move to close debate.
That motion is in order. We've had 2 speeches for, 2 speeches against the motion to refer. The motion to close debate, is there a second? It's not debatable. If you would get your devices ready, we will vote on whether to close debate on the motion to refer. This requires a 2/3 vote in the affirmative. We will now proceed to the vote. Please vote now. Thank you. Let's close the voting. And let's see the results. You have voted 671 to 38 to end debate. So we are going to move to the motion to refer. This is the motion to refer calendar item 542 to GCF&A with a report back Friday, May 3rd, 2024, in spite of Scott Brewer continuing to write 2025 on the piece of paper. The motion to refer is before us. If you would refer calendar item 542 to GCF&A, you will vote yes. If you would not refer it, you'll vote no. Please vote now. I see some checkered flags here, checkered flag over there. Has everyone who would like to vote had a chance to vote? I'm going to close the voting. Here are the results. (342 votes to refer, 372 votes in opposition to refer. Calendar item 542 is not referred. It remains before the body. I'd like to invite Dave Knuckles to go to microphone 1 and propose his amendment.
Thank you, Bishop, and thank you, my friend Andy Call. I'd like to make an amendment to the minority report that has been the main motion, and I'd like to speak to it if a second comes. Should I read the amendment?
Yes.
Amend petition by changing the base rate by year as follows. 2025 and 2026, 2.6%. 2027, In 2028, 2.9%.
Is there a second? You may speak to it.
I'm asking the page to bring a typo-free copy of the amendment.
Much appreciated.
And I say that in humor with to my friend Scott. I think these two things are true, friends. I think most of us in the United States are facing significant financial pressure following disaffiliation and COVID. And many of us feel that significant relief from apportionments is appropriate at this time. And I believe that many of us in the United States and in the worldwide church have a great value placed on connectionalism, connectional ministries, the work of the general church through such things as discipleship ministries and higher education and the General Board of Global Missions. And we have great belief in some of our funds, such as the Black College Fund and Africa University Fund. So if we keep the base rate as proposed, a cut of 21% for 2 years, that gives us some relief for a couple years while we work through things. And if we raise it back to 2.9 in the last 2 years, that will bring us closer to where we have traditionally been. We were just 3 1/4.
Thank you. 7 seconds.
I mean, 3.3 recently. It had been as high as 5% share in decades past. So I think this motion will please, I hope, a lot of people.
Thank you. The amendment is before us. If you wish to speak to the amendment, please enter your name in the speaker pool now. I'll go to microphone 3, Bill Brownson, for a speech against.
Bill Brownson, lay, West Ohio Conference, not old yet. It will not surprise my friend Dave Knuckles that I'm speaking against this petition, or this amendment rather. It's important to note that hundreds of people over the years invested thousands of hours to come up with this original recommendation. And it is not just GCFA's recommendation. It is the connectional tables and GCFA's recommendation. And at the meeting at which there was a vote, which was hard, everybody understands this is hard. At that meeting, that vote passed unanimously by the GCFA board, and there was a single no vote from the connectional table that was voting. I want to affirm what Don House said originally. This is about centering the local church. And if you're a large church, to pick on the smaller church forecast of the impact of a 2.9, we would be signaling to churches who might have the capacity to invest in a youth minister or youth leader, hold off. Your apportionments are going to go up in the second half of the quadrennium. Those are not the kind of decisions that I think we should be putting the local church in. We should not support this amendment to the minority report that was previously passed. I urge your vote against it.
Thank you. Lydia Munoz, microphone 5, a speech 4.
Lydia Munoz, Eastern Pennsylvania Conference, Clergy Latina. I speak in favor of the amendment because Dave Knuckles always has the words that I want to say, so I'm a little jelly. but I speak in favor of it because I know of the impact of the church, especially with my Latine siblings around the world, and in particularly in these United States. As we continue to grow, the services, the resources, the way that the church has intentionally tried to connect with the Latine population that continues to grow is impacted through the work of the general agencies. And so, you know, the understanding of how our connectional giving is connected to the mission and vision of the church is so important. And especially now that we're considering to finally allow Spanish to be one of our official languages, I just urge that we continue to support this work to really extend la mesa de Dios as part of our giving. People love to give when they see their dollars making an impact throughout the connection. I support this amendment.
Michael Watts, microphone 5, speech against. And then I'm going to go to Jorgen Tharup, microphone 2 for speech 4.
Thank you, Bishop. Michael Watts, older adult layperson, Kentucky Annual Conference. I'm here to speak against this amendment. I look at it in two different ways. The first is from the local church perspective, as I am a local church treasurer, and I have to deal with the expenses of the local church every day. In our local church, we have had reductions because of COVID and disaffiliation of our members attending and our membership. While our church didn't even have a vote on disaffiliation, we've had people disaffiliating over the last few years. We also have had to make difficult decisions related to finances concerning staffing, and it has been very difficult for our church. And I don't think our church is unique. We have approximately about half the number of people in attendance every morning or every Sunday morning, and we also have seen our dollars decrease as a result. We've had a reduction from 2 services to 1 service. And then from the annual conference standpoint, it's been very difficult for us. We use a tithing model, and we ask churches to provide 10% of their income. But when we look at what our church or our annual conference is paying, we're paying 33% in our budget for the general church. Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone number 2.
Thank you. My name is Jorgen Tharup. I am from the Denmark Annual Conference, and I am gray and original Viking, and I'm happy to be here. And I want to speak in favor of the amendment of the only reason that the amendment indicates a higher apportionment in the future. As a European delegate, this discussion is really strange. And I see it only as a sign of American culture. We in Europe, we are all very small churches compared to America. But our apportionment level are on a level 2 or 3 times what you are talking about here. We have never discussion about apportionment. We are happy to pay the apportionment and do it as the first. It is the same with the tax to the state. We pay happily our tax to the state. and will raise it higher if needed because we trust in the state. What we hear your discussion is that you want to lower your payment and you are not trusting in the future of the church. Of course the apportionment shall grow. I vote in favor for this amendment.
Microphone 1, Kirk Nave. And then I'm going to call on, oops, never mind.
Is microphone 2 all right?
Yes, microphone 2, yes, that's just fine, thank you.
Kirk Nave, clergy, Virginia Annual Conference, white, almost old. This is wonderful that we're having the conversation. Dave Knuckles is an old and new friend. We were children together in the same congregation, and my friend Jurgen that I've gotten to meet here. Healthy conversation. However, it may not sound like a large proportion, but I'm on the Virginia Conference Council on Finance and Administration. This is asking another $500,000 each year. With Dave's amendment, it would be only 2 years instead of 4, so it will only be nearly $1 million. What we're trying to balance is the financial health of our general church, perhaps at the expense of the financial stability of the local church. And I would just remind us the local church is the primary agent where disciples are made. And I would rather support the local church in this difficult time. We in Virginia promised our people last year that while we lost 11% of our revenue due to disaffiliation, we would bring similar cuts to our annual conference. If this goes forth with a 2.9% base rate, I don't think we'll be able to fulfill our promise to our people. Thank you.
Thank you. We have had 3 speeches for and 3 speeches against the amendment proposed by Delegate Dave Knuckles. In accordance with Rule 7.3, given that, we are going to proceed to a vote. Just to note, there are 5 persons who had wanted to speak for, 6 against, and 4 persons wanted to close debate, but by our rules, that happens automatically. We are now going to proceed to a vote on the amendment. The amendment would be to change the base rate, keep it at 2.6% for 2025 and 2026, and raise it to 2.9% for 2027 and 2028. That is the amendment. That is the question before you. If you would support that, you would vote yes. If you do not support that, you would vote no. Please vote now. Seen some hands up over there. Do you need tech help? To everyone who wishes to vote, had an opportunity to vote. I see 2 over here. It appears everyone has had a chance to vote, no? Has everyone had a chance to vote? Voting is now closed. See the results. Nope, no applause, please. Sighs of relief are perfectly appropriate. By a vote of 366 in the affirmative, if you put those back up again, 362 in the negative, the amendment carries. Calendar item 542 as amended is now before us for further work. If you wish to speak for or against or offer further modifications or amendments, please enter the speaker pool now. We're getting a lot of let's. I'm going to call on Jay Williams, microphone 1, a speech 4. A lot of closed debates. We're going to let Delegate Jay Williams speak, and then I'm going to just kind of test and see where you are. With this many, we can't officially use the motion to close debate, but that's a good indication that many of you are ready to do so anyway. Microphone 1.
Jay Williams, New England Conference clergy. My pronouns are he, him, his. Black American, I'm queer, and I rise to speak in support of the amendment because I believe, or sorry, in support of the calendar item as amended, because I think it actually represents a fair and balanced approach to being both fiscally responsible to our present financial realities and to be a hopeful people who believe in the abundance of God's grace and the abundance of our capacity to give joyfully and sacrificially. Money follows vision, and this increase allows us to set a target that will support ministry across our connectional church. It's unfortunate that I keep hearing a false binary where we pit the local church against the general church. In fact, we're a connectional church for a reason, and that this minor increase in the base rate to the general church, it allows for a redistribution of wealth through our apportionments from wealthier local churches who are able to pay to local churches who have less capacity to pay and access to resources. So in fact, these gradual incremental increases in the base rate and now our amended calendar item benefits the local church through our World Service, through the Black College Fund, through our apportion giving. So I urge you to vote in favor of the motion as amended.
Thank you. I'm going to call on Cynthia Weems, microphone 2, wishes to propose an amendment.
Hello, Cynthia Weems, clergy, Florida, adult white, female. I seek, in an attempt to build a bridge between a divided body, I seek to amend this report. If I have a second, I'll speak to it.
If you'd state your amendment, please.
Okay, the amendment is that the base rate will increase from 2.6 to 2.9, what we just approved, if the collection rate in the first 2 years is 90% or higher.
Yeah, you have a second? Please speak to it.
I was on the Financial Administration Legislative Committee where we did some of this work already. You've heard really compelling speeches on both sides, and we just had a very divided vote. And part of the vote came from a real sense in the room that we are entering a new day as a United Methodist denomination. I have never felt more hopeful about our church. At the same time, having been the point person for disaffiliations in the Florida Conference, and walking with 175 churches as they left, I know the ramifications of that for our conference, and a 35% reduction in our budget, $5.6 million over the last 2 years. And I know I have I go into this next year or two with some trembling, right? We've heard some numbers about what our payout used to be. And I know in many of our settings, our churches really seek to have a high payout rate and are very committed to apportionment giving. But we're in a season of unknowns. And it seems to me that if the 90% threshold is a vitality index, and I think most of us would say that's true in our local churches and in our annual conferences, then that would absolutely be a reason to increase that base rate in the final 2 years of the quadrennium. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's clear the pool. What is now before us is the amendment proposed by Cynthia Weems, which modifies the motion to include a caveat that the base rate will go up to 2.9% if the collection rate in 25 and 26 is 90% or greater. That is before you for discussion. If you wish to speak to it, please enter the pool. Bethany Amy has a point of inquiry, microphone 5.
Bethany Amy, Greater New Jersey Annual Conference. My pronouns are she, her, hers, Korean, laity. My question is if somebody could provide the last time that the collection rate was 90%.
Is there someone in the House who may be able to do that? General Secretary Kumar, are you still here, and do you have that information? Thank you. If you want to go to microphone 6, that would be wonderful.
Bishop, I'm still getting the figures. Just a minute. I don't have it at me right this minute.
Okay. Maybe while we're getting those, if it's okay with the House, we'll take the next speech, and then I'll come back to you. Gary Henderson, microphone 5, speech against. I will make sure we get that information before we vote.
I'm Gary Henderson, East Ohio, and I rise to stand against the current amendment. I think as United Methodists, we spend far too much time living in the land of what we can see. And we don't live enough in the land of the God who is able to do immeasurably more than we can ask or imagine. What we have before us is a compromise already between a divided house. We live in the land of safety for 2 years. And then in the following 2 years, we dare raise the possibility that God is able to do something new in us. If this is a new day, and I believe it is a new day, and God is doing a new thing, we've got to get out of the lifeboats and get into the deep water and believe that God is moving and stirring in an amazing new way, even in our money. And what I learned as a fundraiser for Imaginal Malaria, and $77 million later, that the money that we don't have, it's in our pockets, friends. So let's move on and believe that God is doing something new with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Speech 4, I'd like to recognize Carlene Johnson at microphone 2. I know that was a speech against, Gary, sorry. I'd like to recognize Carlene Johnson, microphone 2, to speak for.
Carlene Johnson, laywoman from Florida. I am 33, so I think the monitors get to call me a young adult still, maybe. I'm speaking to you as a person who, until December 31st of this last year, was the executive director of a nonprofit that served children and helping them with literacy. And I give you that date because that was a vital ministry that closed because we did not have sufficient funding. I think there is a distinction that needs to be made between things that are vital and things that are sustainable. And sometimes things that are vital are not sustainable. I think this amendment is a great one because it allows us to hope, and it gives us the opportunity to budget based on what we know might come in. I say might, no one really knows what will come in. I think we can trust in God, and trusting in God does not mean that we have to blindly ignore our financial realities. It's really difficult to be in a position where you trust that God will come through, and then sometimes it doesn't. The money doesn't, God does. And so I'd urge you to vote for this amendment because I think it speaks to our financial realities, and it allows us to hope for sustainability of vital ministries at a rate that is actually sustainable.
Thank you. I'm going to call on Rukang Chikom, microphone 2.
Bishop, I have the information, Bishop.
Oh, yes, please. Thank you, General Secretary Kumar.
If you turn with me to volume number 4, GCFA report, volume number 4, GCFA report, go to page number 1821. Page number 1821. If you see at the last 3 columns, which would have 2018 was the last 90% was paid. And 17 is what, 92.1 and 91.8. So the last payment of 2008, 90%. 90% was paid on 2018.
Thank you. So that answers the question. Back to microphone number 2. Thank you.
Bishop Rukang Chikom, Northwest Katanga, and thank you, you got it right on my name. Thank you, Bishop. Bishop, I'm against the amendment because of 2 things. The number one is that if we do better, we can blah, blah, blah. If we don't do better, then what? That's number one. Number 2, folks, the minority report. Do we have any issues, minority report? You showed the power of the house that is together with God, faithful people. It prevailed. We just spent almost an hour because minority report prevailed. I have a hard time understanding that. I'm against the amendment, and let's go back, just support this minority. We know about minorities' issues, please.
Going to call on Beverly Wilkes Null, microphone 4, for a point of inquiry. And then Jim Allen, if you'd also go to microphone 4, you have an other parliamentary that you'd like to address.
Beverly Wilkes Null, African American clergywoman Illinois Great Rivers Conference, pronouns she, her, and hers. My inquiry, Bishop, is Rule 23.8.
Go ahead.
It is a non-debatable request that we pause and pray in this moment, and I would ask you to lead us now.
That is very much in order. So we're just going to take a moment to breathe and to pray, and then move forward. Bene Sancte Spiritus. Come, Spirit, come. Fill our hearts with your peace. Fill our minds with wisdom. Fill our souls with joy. Come, Spirit, come. Amen. I had said I was going to call on Jim Allen, microphone 4.
Bishop, the issue I was going to raise has been resolved by a question by another delegate. So I
Thank
withdraw.
you. I'd like to call on Odell Horn, microphone 5.
Odell Horn, laity, North Georgia Conference. Bishop, I move the previous question.
And you'd like to move that on the amendment?
The amendment, that is correct.
Okay. The motion to move the previous question is a motion to end debate on the amendment proposed by Cynthia Weems. That amendment would have raised the base rate to 2.9%, which we've already approved in 2027 and 2028, but added the condition only if receipts in the prior 2 years were 90%, or the prior year was 90%. Is it both 2 years? Please. If you'd read the amendment, that would be helpful. Thanks.
Thank you, Bishop. The motion is to amend by addition that the base rate will increase from 2.6% in 2025 and 2026 to 2.9% in 2027 and 2028 if the collection rate is 90% or higher in the first 2 years.
Thank you. So that is what will be before us if we vote to close debate. So the current motion is to close debate. If you'd get your devices ready, if you would close debate. Oh, and before we do that, by the rule, I need to let you know there were 8 people in the pool with speeches in favor of the amendment, 2 people with speeches against, and no one proposing an amendment to the amendment. So if you would vote to close debate, the motion requires a 2/3 majority to carry. You'd press 1. If you'd like to continue to discuss the amendment, you would press 2. Please vote now. Looking around, is everyone, are your devices all working? Appears that everyone who would like to vote has voted. Let's close the poll. And let's see the results. You voted to end debate on the amendment proposed by Cynthia Weems. You've supported that, 695 in the affirmative, 34 in the negative. We are now going to vote on the amendment. And I would ask the Secretary of General Conference to read it one more time.
That the base rate will increase from 2.6% in 2025 and 2026 to 2.9% in 2027 and 2028 if the collection rate is 90% or higher in the first 2 years.
Thank you. That is before us. If you would support that amendment, you would vote yes. If not, you would vote no. Please vote now. So right directly in front of me, there was a flag. Thank you. Looks like it may be cared for. Others? Give it 10 more seconds. Let's close the poll. Oops, there's a flag, I'm sorry, flag way in the back. Thank you. If we could see the results. The amendment is supported, 461 in the affirmative, 272 in the negative. Calendar item 542, as we have been working on it for some time now, is before us. My sense is we may be getting to a point where you'd like to vote on this calendar item as we've amended it. If there are no objections, I'd like to move to that vote. This is like silent prayer. I'm hearing you. We are going to move to a vote on calendar item 542 as it has been amended. If you would support this item as amended, you will vote 1. If not, you'll vote 2. Please vote now. Everyone who would like to vote had an opportunity to vote. I'm not seeing any checkered flags. Let's close the polls and let's see the results. On calendar item 542 as amended, 640 in the affirmative, 94 in The negative, you have supported this calendar item and done wonderful work on it. Give yourselves a round of applause.